fall, there's a new leader at the helm of the Partnership for New York City after Kathy Wild's retirement, after she spent more than 2 decades advocating for the city's business leaders. The partnership is an invitation-only organization that represents the CEOs of more than 300 companies in our city, including leaders of firms like Google and JP Morgan Chase. My next guest, Stephen Fulop, has taken over the partnership at a crucial time for New York and its business community. His task will be to help Mayor Mamdani navigate a complicated relationship with business leaders, that and much more. Mr. Fulop brings his own experience to the table as the former 3-term mayor of Jersey City. He joins me now to talk more about his new role as the president and CEO of the partnership. Welcome to the program. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
So how have your first few weeks on the job been?
It's been good. A lot of learning, a lot of listening, a lot of meetings with different people, but it's been good, productive.
Okay, I'm glad you're on the right side of the river now. What's the biggest difference between here and Jersey City?
Okay, I think there are a lot of similar challenges, to be honest with you. They're both densely populated cities, very diverse cities, challenging environments, similar political inclinations on both sides of the river. I think learning some of the political landscape is a little bit different, but so far so good.
Well, yeah, just watch us every night. We'll give you the whole story. What are the biggest concerns you are hearing from the leaders of the businesses?
Yeah, look, I think that at the core we have some of the same concerns around affordability because they impact our employees. I think the mayor has done a good job of articulating that. How you solve that, we have to have a working relationship on. But at the end of the day, we want to have a cooperative relationship. So I hear from the business community that they have a lot of kind of concerns, wait-and-see approach based on what they hear from the mayor. We've never had a socialist mayor in any major city in this country. So want to have a constructive relationship. We'll see how it works out.
Have you had any conversations with the mayor?
Yeah, we communicate. We're seeing each other in the near term. We met via the partnership a couple weeks ago. I have every reason to think that it's going to be constructive.
As a former mayor, you know this probably better than most of us, which is that he ran on a promise to do certain things. He's now basically locked in on those things, right?
Yeah.
So we're not going to, you can't expect him to sort of say, oh, you know what, fast and free buses, forget it. Or, you know, freeze the rent, oh, I guess it's not going to work. I mean, he's pretty much committed, right?
I mean, look, I think he's committed, but I think there are some realities of a campaign versus, you know, actually being an administrator. I think his background from being a legislator to being the executive, being an activist to being more in the elected prominent space, those are transitions. And sometimes you can't get to where you want to get to right out of the gate. So I think when you talk about fast and free buses as an example, you know, we got to see kind of what the dollars look like, what the implications are of that, and maybe there's some workaround to get him kind of where he needs to go, and we'll see what he proposes ultimately.
The budget gap of, I guess now $7 billion that we heard the mayor talk about this week, when the answer, as far as the mayor is concerned, is to consider raising taxes on basically some of the businesses that your members run. Is there an immediate aversion to that, or is there okay, let's talk, let's pull out our pencils and see what we can do?
No, look, I think it's a little bit of both. I think the starting point is saying that this tax environment here in New York City is the most expensive in the entire country, and you know, you don't know where that tripwire is. It could be at another 1%, but if you do what he's proposing, which is essentially being double the rate of New Jersey, because if you match New Jersey's corporate tax rate, it ultimately would end up being double. If you are 100% more than your neighbor a mile away, I think a reasonable person would say that you would see an exodus. I'll point out that yesterday they announced a $5 billion improvement as far as the budget shortfall goes. And that was attributed to Wall Street predominantly. It's an industry that largely feels underappreciated in this environment. When you talk about, let's say, Texas and their core industries, like the oil industry, they appreciate it. They recognize how important it is. In many cases here in New York, you are seeing a slow exodus where these companies are not growing. And so that $5 billion situation you had yesterday, those are going to become fewer and far between if it's not handled carefully.
When you say appreciation, is that rhetorical? Is that they just want to hear the mayor say nice things about them? Or is it tax?
Well, I think that often they're perceived as, you know, greedy people that are vilified. And there's no absolute way to paint any picture is the reality of any industry. And I think what they would say as it relates to the community here in New York City is that most of these are very philanthropic organizations. We have 800,000 employees that we advocate for. Most of the time it's perceived as an advocacy group for the CEOs, which it is not. It is really about the 800,000 employees that we collectively represent. And when you speak about what we contribute to the budget overall, I think sometimes that is not recognized as far as how fragile that environment is.
What's your sense of how well the budget is being managed? I mean, he's only been here, granted, for a few weeks, but the city is pretty much the way it's been for the last decade or so, right?
I mean, look, I think New York City is a desirable place to be. I think young people want to be here, assuming that you can afford to be here. So we share that situation. I think that if you have a change in the tax environment and that gradual exodus that you've seen start to happen continues over time, you'll see less job opportunities, you'll see more job opportunities elsewhere, and you'll see younger people not wanting to be here because they can't afford to be here because you won't be able to find the dollars like you did yesterday. And so it's a domino effect, and I think we just need to be mindful of it.
Yeah, people may be mistaken about this, but you have a unique perspective on this.
Yeah.
Do companies pick up and families pick up and leave and go to New Jersey because of a more favorable tax environment?
Well, I live that in Jersey City. We benefited in many ways from some companies moving across the river. So it absolutely does happen. It's not overnight. What more often you see is people making the decision to not grow in New York. They're to grow in Texas, to grow in Florida, or to grow in New Jersey if you have 100% difference. And that has a huge impact. Now, with regards to people want to be in New York City, right? So you don't need, though, if you think about the 3,000 wealthiest people in New York City, you don't need 1,000 of them to leave to have a huge impact on the budget. 10 leave, you're going to have a huge impact on the budget. And so if you think about the implications of that, it could be devastating. And what we say is you don't need everybody to leave, because they'll say, the far left would say people aren't going to leave. Say, okay, maybe most won't leave, but if some leave, it's going to hurt. And we don't want
right, and if there's a plan for a multi-billion-dollar expansion and it goes to San Antonio instead of Staten Island, that's a problem.
Yes,
right?
yes. I think, look, a lot of people in our universe are concerned, and like I said initially, it's a wait-and-see approach. They hear what the mayor's saying. They don't really know yet what the implications of that are. When you talk about the EDC measuring on justice, for example, we think justice is a good thing. I think everybody thinks justice is a good thing. What does that mean in actuality? And we have a lot of questions about that.
Yeah. On a relatively narrow question, but I know you know the answer to this. When the mayor says, we just want to bring our corporate rates in line with New Jersey's, explain why that's not quite accurate. New York City has some uniques.
Yeah, because New York City, you also pay a city tax and some MTA fees. So whereas New Jersey has an 11% corporate tax rate approximately, today, it's roughly 17% in New York City, and that's according to the CBC, which is nonpartisan. So if you match New Jersey's rate on the corporate tax side, raising it from 7 to 11, you will be bringing up the gross tax here in New York City to roughly 22%. So if you're considering 22% versus 11%, you're looking to start a business in this environment. You ask yourself, where are you going to go, right? You're probably going to go to the place that isn't 22%.
The thing that keeps New York alive culturally, and economically, are young people who, like a young Fulop, who wanted to come and work at Goldman Sachs or wherever it was you work. Do you have a sense? Do your members have a sense of whether or not that's still true? Are they still getting the resumes? We keep hearing about this being sort of a no fire, no hire economy right now.
I think it is tougher to get jobs for young people. A lot of reasons for that. Fragile economy, AI, a lot of things kind of pushing on that in an uncertain environment in New York. I think people still want to be in New York City for culture and nightlife. Affordability is a big issue. I think you got to grow housing, and the mayor's been great on this and what he says. Again, we'll see what the action is, but housing growth is crucial to solving the affordability issues.
Okay. Well, we'll let you get to it. Thank you, Steve Fulop.